to Analysis with me, Jonathan Steele. President of Pakistan, Nawaz Sharif, is in Washington to talk to Obama about several regional issues, but he's also going to bring up the question of drone strikes, which he says must come to an end. Meanwhile, America, who says that they are the least intrusive option, is criticized by Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch. Their joint report, looking at drone attacks in Yemen and along the Afghan-Pakistan border region, state that America might be using the lawlessness of the region as cover to evade accountability for its violations of human rights. So far, the US has not disclosed the casualty rates of its drone strikes and has only stated that its drone campaign is consistent with all applicable domestic and international law. Drone attacks have long been shrouded in secrecy, with the intelligence and military services rarely disclosing information on the strike activity and how many individuals have been targeted. And there's huge controversy around President Obama's kill list, a continually expanding list of people worldwide whom the US can, they say, target without fear of jurisdictional problems. But given the mounting concerns from human rights organizations, is the US listening to the concerns of other people and human rights organizations in particular? Tatiana Simmons has more.
Will I be next? This is the title of a new report released by Amnesty International, alongside a report by the Human Rights Watch, which has uncovered evidence that US drone strikes in Pakistan and Yemen respectively could constitute war crimes. The report gathered evidence of a significant number of civilians killed by drone strikes in both countries, despite the claim that drones are the least invasive and most effective form of counterterrorism strategy.
Since 2009, the United States has carried out an estimated 80 targeted killing operations in Yemen. These are part of its effort to quash al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, which President Obama describes as one of the most active branches of al-Qaeda. These strikes have killed an estimated 473 people, yet the U.S. has only publicly acknowledged 2 of these strikes, those that have killed Americans. It's as if the hundreds of Yemenis killed in these attacks simply never existed.
The use of drone attacks carried out by the CIA has long been shrouded in secrecy, with officials rarely commenting on individual strikes or how individuals are targeted. Huge controversy has surrounded President Obama's kill list, a continual expanding list of people worldwide whom the US can target without fear of jurisdiction. Despite human rights groups claiming that some attacks have broken international law, the US has repeatedly claimed that very few civilians have been killed by drones, and extraordinary care is taken to ensure that campaigns comply with international law.
We are calling on President Obama to immediately commit to ensuring investigations of these cases and of all other potentially unlawful killings. The Obama administration has sought to evade accountability by promising that its policies have already improved. This trust us approach to the law, so evident in the recent NSA surveillance scandal, is also manifesting here with the added gravity of life and death.
In Pakistan, the issue of US strategy has increased its potency politically.
There is, however, the matter of drone strikes, which have deeply disturbed and agitated our people. In my first statement to the Parliament, I had reiterated our strong commitment to ensuring an end to the drone attacks. More recently, our political parties in a national conference had declared that the use of drones is not only a continued violation of our territorial integrity, but also detrimental to our resolve and efforts at eliminating terrorism from our country. This issue has become a major irritant in our bilateral relationship as well. I would therefore stress the need for an end to drone attacks.
The legal argument over drones is complex, with much controversy surrounding whether or not the places that they're used amount to war zones. With such a degree of secrecy surrounding the use of drones, this report highlights that Obama's promise of increased transparency in drone attacks is not being realised. Tayana Simons, Islam channel.
Joining me in the studio to discuss this all is Paul Schulte, visiting Senior Research Fellow in the Department of War Studies at King's College London, Sibghatullah Kadri QC from the London, a member of the Pakistani People's Party, the Bhutto Party, and joining us on the phone is Asin Khan, the former president of the London Pakistani-e-Insaf Party, the Imran Khan Party. Let me talk to you first, Paul. I mean, how do the Americans justify, in terms of international law, what they're doing?
Well, broadly, they say that they have a doctrine which relates to global war. They are facing a war being waged against them across the planet by large, effective non-state organizations, Al-Qaeda and its affiliates, who claim the right to attack Americans anywhere, anytime. And America in this war is therefore, the Americans say, to hit back or indeed to use preventative force. Therefore, law of armed conflict should apply, because it is for them an armed conflict. It's not just a humanitarian set of legal considerations. And they use drones because these are the most discriminate, technically precise ways of killing enemy combatants in areas which they couldn't otherwise reach, except with boots on the ground, which would be entangling and nobody wants. So they say the alternative is to do nothing and let these people continue to plot and operate in otherwise ungoverned, uncontrolled territories. They'd like them to be arrested. They'd like them to be taken care of by the responsible authorities of the nations concerned. But in Yemen and Pakistan, that is not possible in many places.
Well, Sibghatullah Kadri, I mean, do you think they're justified under international law?
I don't think they are justified at all, because you see, the point is they are attacking Pakistan. They are attacking a sovereign country where, according to them, on occasions, they are the Al-Qaeda people, the enemy combatant, okay? They are there. They are there in civilian areas. They know very well when they attack them, there will be hundreds of civilians, at least scores of civilians will die because they live nearby. There is no international law doesn't allow that some soldiers are hiding somewhere in a sovereign country, some enemies, that you go after that. What you do is that you ask that country, Pakistan is a friendly country, to take measures. And if at all it has to be drone attack, if you can't do it in any other way, then it should be done jointly. Pakistan has been saying, look, give us drone, or if you want to deal with this matter through drones, then we should do it jointly. But they don't do it, and hundreds of thousands of people have died, children.
Well, everything depends on the consent of the national government, in other words. If Pakistan said it's okay, then the US could do it.
It's a sovereign country you are attacking. It's not a situation of law of war that you are attacking some enemy country and enemy territory.
Well, let me come to you from the Imran Khan Party, please. Do you trust Nawaz Sharif when he says that he wants this to come to an end? I mean, we've just heard from Dr. Kadri that if Pakistan says it's legitimate, it's okay, and if they refuse, it's not. And we've heard Nawaz Sharif on that clip that was shown talking about how they must come to an end. I mean, why doesn't he take any action?
Well, Jonathan, Nawaz has been given the trust, I mean, by the whole nation, basically. He's the elected prime minister. So obviously now he has to make sure, because for the last 11 years, what's going on in Pakistan is absolutely abhorrent. The whole concept of legality around this is almost as absurd as the very concept of global war and terror, basically. And the USA must be accountable because it really has violated all the international norms. Whether Nawaz Sharif can actually do that, that is the test as the Prime Minister he has to do, basically, because the consensus is that Pakistan has to come out of this war, and for us to go into any peace dialogue with any party, Taliban and all the other factions, the drone attacks must have to end. And the damage that has already taken place, I mean, the report you mentioned, the Amnesty report, I mean, they've only examined 9 strikes. They've only examined 9 strikes out of 380 strikes. So there is no idea the amount of damage that has taken place, and half of the people have been displaced from there. So it's a huge challenge for USA to actually come up with any plausible answers that why, in God's name, these guys have basically went for the drone attacks in Pakistan and obviously in Yemen as well. And what actually did they really gain out of it? there's still the civilians that have been killed. There is, but I mean, the Bureau of Investigative Journalism and the Pakistani authorities, they're saying it's almost we have 1,000 to 1,500 children are dead. I mean, let's not deal with that at the moment.
I'm just talking about Nawaz Sharif's policies. Let me put that point to you, Dr. Kadri. Do you think Nawaz Sharif is actually serious when he says these things ought to end, or is it just being said for public opinion purposes?
That's the problem in Pakistan, because all politicians say one thing, but we don't know what they do when they go into the discussion. We are very much hopeful. I think it's in the interest of America and Pakistan that drone attacks stop, because every drone attack creates another few terrorists. Because people whose father is killed, whose children, and we are talking of the frontier tribal areas where the revenge is part of their culture. So if somebody's brother is killed, father is killed, then they create six. The whole family then become terrorists. They become Al-Qaeda. They join them, and they want to fight Americans. They want to fight Pakistan, because people in Pakistan say Pakistan government is not doing anything. So I very much hope that this time Nawaz Sharif is going to convince them that it's in the interest of America, it's in the interest of Pakistan, it's in the interest of world peace that these drone attacks are stopped. Because if they stop, only then there can be some talk with Taliban. As long as the drone attack is going on, we can't have any serious discussion, serious peace talk.
Well, Paul, do you agree that they're not really very effective just in terms of dealing with terrorism?
I think it's very hard to judge that. There is no doubt that killing terrorist militants disrupts terrorist operations. I mean, it's not just that they have fewer people. The people who are killed are generally the sort of nodal expert individuals, the centers of networks and hubs, and that slows down and frustrates what that organization would otherwise get up to. There is, of course, the problem of blowback. It may be that some people are recruited to the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, but figures which try to plot this do not show any upsurge in terrorism immediately after or in the weeks after drone strikes. So it's not an easy association to prove.
But what about the issue of Yemen? I mean, we've been mentioning Pakistan so far, but they've been going on much longer in Yemen, and yet the Al-Qaeda groups, or Al-Qaeda-linked groups, have taken over more territory in Yemen in spite of it, haven't they?
It's Yemen is a complicated, messy situation. It's hard to know what's actually happening and who's expanding and who's contracting. In Yemen, it's quite interesting. The Saudis seem to be involved. It's not just the Americans, and it's not just drones. There are reports of Saudi aircraft as well, and Saudi support to the Yemeni government. So, given the other problems that Yemen has, its poverty, its overpopulation, its loss of water. It's hard to say that just because Al-Qaeda and other insurgents have been making gains, that's evidence that drones don't work or are counterproductive. You always have to say, well, what would happen if drones had not been used? How much more of that territory would now be controlled by Al-Qaeda?
But then you're relying on this counterfactual kind of argument.
This is a very difficult area. Yeah. I mean, we don't have a methodology which can account for all the dynamics and relationships. But it's certainly not one where you can say simply because there's a simple pattern, drones either work or don't work. Right. It's got to be understood in more complicated terms than that.
I'll tell you only this. Americans have never claimed that through drones they have stopped some attack on America, that there was something really going to happen in Britain or in France or an attack in Europe. They have never claimed that there was a conspiracy, but what is dangerous is, and what my friend said just now, well, they are attacking Taliban, the Pakistani Taliban, not Al-Qaeda. They have no war with Pakistani Taliban, with Americans. Pakistan doesn't want them to attack. But what is happening as a result of drone, there are facts there. We can't say there's no evidence that there have been so much suicide attacks in Pakistan. Before drones, they were not there. It's the result of the American war that people of Pakistan are suffering. 40,000 people have died in Pakistan. 15,000 soldiers have died. And Pakistan government can't do anything because if Americans stop attacking, all right, attack them if they are attacking Al-Qaeda, but what is the business of them attacking Pakistani Taliban? Pakistani Taliban are fighting government of Pakistan. Government of Pakistan should attack. They have not asked America to assist them, to help them to get rid of Pakistan.
Well, they are operating and assisting the other brands of Taliban inside Afghanistan who very definitely are killing American and allied troops and Afghans.
Well, I agree. I mean, it's extraordinary. In old days, Soviet Union, when there was a fight with Soviet, or China, when there was Viet Cong. If Americans started attacking China at that time, because the Viet Cong, the Vietnamese communists are being supported by Chinese, they say Pakistan is a poor country. They wouldn't dare if Pakistan said tomorrow, look, you try drone, we'll bring them down.
Well, that is of course an option. Why hasn't Pakistan closed its airspace?
Exactly. At the end of the day, people of Pakistan is saying to Nawaz Sharif, say that. Don't rely on the aid, their aid and few pounds, few dollars.
Well, let me bring Asim Khan back in. Are you still there, Asim Khan? Asim Khan, are you there? Can you hear us?
I can hear you, John.
Yes, okay. What about the idea of talks with the Taliban? I mean, I think your leader was in favor of it. Nawaz Sharif also during his campaign for the election in May talked about it. But, I mean, have they made any real progress in trying to talk to the Taliban?
Jonathan, there have been 4 all-parties conferences, and the last one, all the political parties came to the same conclusion, which Imran Khan and the party has been saying for the last 7+ years, that all this has to be resolved on the dialogue table. It has to be initiated. Obviously, the responsibility is with the government of Pakistan, and Nawaz Sharif has to make sure that all these talks are initiated as soon as possible. And for that, that is the only way forward. I mean, the Americans are going to be pretty much taking the same approach as well with Taliban in Afghanistan. And there is no other way. I mean, the military solution has never been the argument, basically, to move things forward.
But what's the delay? I mean, he's been in power for 6 months. What is stopping him starting, at least trying to negotiate with the Taliban?
I think the delay is coming in the sense that these guys the government of Pakistan has to really prioritize on this most single issue, that before they do anything else, they really have to make sure that all the focus is there. Obviously, there are conversations which are taking place, as is in USA as well, that he will actually speak to the Americans to have the drones attack stop. And if that obviously takes place, then the next stage will be initiated. But the priority and the focus, as far as we are concerned, that it should be 100% on those talks and the dialogue. And for that, obviously, Imran Khan has been very vociferous that they must be initiated as soon as possible, because we simply cannot anymore go on through this, that there are so many civilians, all this reaction that has come in Pakistan, and we've had to literally endure 11 years of extremism and terror on our soil as a result of this war, basically, which is waged upon us and our leaders and the previous government, and people like Musharraf, basically, they just gave in. So I think it's very important that the peace talk has to be established, and this is the message we are constantly putting forward to everyone.
Well, let me come back to you, Dr. Kadri. I mean, you are in favor of talks with the Taliban.
Yes. Not only we, Pakistan National Assembly, all political parties jointly passed a resolution unanimously that there should be talks.
So what is stopping them happening?
Well, I just don't know what's going on, why the Nawaz Sharif. But I can see the Taliban are at the moment not interested. I think they will not come unless they are sure. You see, you can imagine there's a talk going on with Taliban leaders there, and a drone comes and kill all of them. They have to be sure. I mean, Americans can
have they made
attack.
A statement saying that they will only talk once the drone
I think they have done the conditions earlier. Earlier they have said it, but not this time just now. Because earlier when there was a talk about talking, they had said it that their actions against them had to stop. There can't be a ceasefire unless both sides do a ceasefire. And in that ceasefire, they include drone attacks as well.
Right. So, but what one reads about the preconditions the Taliban have announced are rather extensive. Cessation of drone strikes, cessation of operations by the Pakistani army, and immediate introduction of Sharia law.
No, well, that is not the condition. Well, I think that will not. You see, Pakistan.
That is reported to be one of the conditions.
Indeed, I accept.
None of this is very clear cut.
I accept.
Those seem to be rather significant obstacles.
I agree, but the position is this: that the Pakistani political parties cannot say, because there have never been talks anywhere with IRA or anywhere. When British government started talking with IRA, they accepted that the army actions in our Northern Ireland will stop. Because you have to have a ceasefire. You can't have a talk.
No, no, no. You quite often have peace arrangement talks going on while, you know, the Vietnam War continued for 5 years while they were talking in Paris.
But we need more ceasefire because we are dying every day with suicide bombers. Ceasefire
no, ideally, it would be good to have a ceasefire, but it's not the record of history that you always have a ceasefire before you have talks.
No, I agree with you. I agree. But what I'm saying, in the situation of Pakistan, what Pakistanis want a ceasefire is no more suicide attacks in Lahore, no more suicide attacks in Islamabad, no more suicide attacks in civilian population, no more citizens of Pakistan dying in their home or in the mosque, etc., which is happening. The Taliban are doing it. They will only do it if they say no more drone attacks on us, no more assistance to Americans to kill us or the tribal people or their children. So that ceasefire has to happen.
Let's say there was a ceasefire. What's the basis of a negotiation? What do the Taliban want, apart from stopping all this war, etc., and the drone strikes, etc.? What do they want?
I suppose that will be on the when the negotiation stops. Of course, Taliban wants, which is not acceptable to anybody, to have a Sharia government, etc., which people of Pakistan, they know it. People of Pakistan will not accept it.
So there's not much basis for a settlement then.
Well, I don't know, but probably, and I'm saying just very carefully, probably, you see, one knows that there have always been Sharia law in the tribal areas. The British never introduced British laws, the common law. Tribal areas were there. So there may be a compromise there. Yes, Sharia law in tribal areas, but not in Pakistan.
Well, that would be a compromise, and I'm afraid we've run out of time. So thank you very much indeed, Sibghatullah, Kadri, Paul Schulte, and by telephone, Asin Khan. And stay with us. In the second half of the programme, we'll be talking about British issues and the police use of Schedule 7 of the Terrorism Act to stop people at airports, which has been much criticised. So stay with us.